You're watching the Tom Baker season on Whose Views. Remember to like this video and do subscribe to the channel. It's my personal favorite.
Hello and welcome to Whose Views. Thank you so much, Tom, for that fabulous introduction. And hello, everybody. Thank you for watching us. As you can see, I am joined by Paul and Kirsty and Bedouin and Third Doctor Ian and Phil. And yes, we are here to start our celebrations as we pay homage to the legend that is Tom Baker on his 90th birthday. Can you ever just imagine, everyone? What an achievement. Fantastic. It really is, isn't it? It's fantastic. So thank you so much, everybody, joining us. So who we got here? We've got Gore Vidal that's saying to us straight away, I think what makes Tom Baker a great doctor is a warrior's heart, cloaked in a disarming charm and unrelenting optimism, no matter the stakes. Isn't that fab? And Pete's here. Good day all, says Pete.
Good day.
Hi, Pete.
Good day. Yes, and Garbage is here as well, saying hello, hello.
Yep. Hi, Garbage.
So yes, this is the first. Oh, Jack, hiya, Jack, saying 90 years young. Yeah. He really is. And this is the first in our shows, which are celebrating Tom and, you know, just really loving every minute. It's an unashamed geek fest for Tom, isn't it, everyone?
Oh, yes.
Oh, absolutely. He deserves it.
Well, he does, isn't he? Because, yeah. And in this episode, we thought we would start by looking at Tom's career, or some of Tom's career, because when you actually look at Mr. Baker and his life and times, when he out of Doctor Who, the guy's been a busy man for his entire career. He really, really has. And so we all thought we'd get together and talk about some of the little bits and pieces that we remember about Tom, some highlights we've got about Tom. And we want your memories as well. Join us, please, to tell us have you met Tom? What do you remember about him? Have you seen him in any plays? Anything outside of Doctor Who on this one as well? And then, of course, we will be getting on to Doctor Who as well, because that's why we all know and love him, isn't it, everybody? So, yes, so listen, I want to start right at the very beginning. Pete, you'll be interested in this, because, of course, the mighty legend that is Tom Baker was born on the 20th of January, 1934, in Liverpool on Scotland Road. Now, this is Scotty Road in 1934. This is the year he was born, everybody. Look at this. Isn't this fantastic? And this is actually from the Liverpool archives. So thank you to them. That's where he was born into, down over in Liverpool. It doesn't look like that anymore, everybody, by the way. It really doesn't. Does it, Pete? It doesn't. It's all posh now. It's got Sainsbury's and a Costa and a college. Can you ever just...
not the same.
but that's where he was born. Let's have a look at that again. That is Scotland Road in Liverpool. And do you know what makes me laugh is that they took some production team guys took Tom back to Liverpool around about 8-9 years ago or something like that, and he's standing on Scotland Road, and it's like and it's what they did with Cilla, the late Cilla Black as well, who was born on the same road in Liverpool. Woo. And they're standing there going, I don't recognise the thing at all. It was hilarious. And Tom's going, what have you brought me here for?
It's just the right place.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, the two roads are still, but you can't recognise anything. And he's been away for so long, you just can't recognise the thing. But that was funny, I thought. And that's where, obviously, Who viewers, Pete's saying, hooray! That's where the story starts for our Tom. And then it's up and off from then. I mean, I have to say that if you've got this, as a few of us have had, the Who on Earth is Tom Baker autobiography, yeah, from a long time ago, I have to say, if you haven't got it, it is worth hunting out. But one of the first lines in his memoirs there is, my first ambition was to be an orphan. Now that basically... that sums up Tom straight away. And what had happened is, he was born on Scotty Road in Liverpool, and when the war happened, his mother refused to send him away. So he wasn't billeted, he wasn't sent out of Liverpool, and he lived through Liverpool. And it's a lovely story, actually, because as he was growing up in Liverpool, and as the bombs were falling and Liverpool was being destroyed all the way around him, Tom became one of those little lads that was scrambling over the rubble, looking for all the shrapnel, and then making
Making a few bob. Yeah.
Maybe, allegedly. Good for him. Good for him.
Can I recommend about the biography? If you've not got it, definitely buy it. If you can track down the audio book of it, get that as well, because it's fantastic.
Who on earth is Tom Baker?
Yeah.
It's that title also captures him. It is worth finding if you can get it. It's a fabulous read, isn't it?
And there's some great photographs of his early career as well in there. Fantastic stuff. And his early life. Great stuff.
It really, really is, yeah. Hello to everybody else that's joined. Hello to Darren, he's here with us as well. And just Jordan, where have you been? We have missed you. Currently going through season 12 and Revenge of the Cybermen. Oh, well, never mind.
Hey,
Editorial comment.
better than Time Lash.
Ooh.
Whoa, starting early tonight.
Starting
early.
Fighting talk already.
Oh, we're starting the job.
I'm just teasing you, Phil. I'm just teasing you.
I haven't read the Cybermen quite a lot as well.
Jack, it's nice to see you, just Jordan. Jack is saying, I'm guessing there are a few tall tales in the book. Well, yes. What else can you say? Well, it's Mr. Baker, and there are a few interesting. There's an infamous story about wearing his Doctor Who costume when possibly he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Yeah, the biography should have either a PG or an 18 certificate on it, I think, to be fair.
Absolutely. George is here with us saying Jackie Lane was instrumental in Tom's autobiography. She was, wasn't she? The lovely Jackie Lane, because she was his agent at the time, wasn't she, George? Was it Doctor Who magazine or was it a convention where she talked a little bit about encouraging him to do it? I can't remember, George. Put me right. It's all going mad. And Simon is here with us as well, just checking in from barking. Well, we're all barking, so that's fine.
And so was Tom. It's Tom.
And so is Tom. And God love him. He is the last great British eccentric, isn't he, everyone?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm amazed he's got to 90. Because you read his autobiography and you hear things about it. Absolutely, and he must have drunk thousands of people under the table, and there he is at 90. And other people that have, like, the odd tipple, but gone to the gym and done all the healthy eating, they dropped dead at about 65, and Tom is still here. It's like on paper,
probably pickled, to be fair.
Years ago.
And he's brilliant, isn't it? And as I say, he's the last great British eccentric, but he's the last one of the last links now to that bygone era of actors and proper productions. And Olivier, for crying out loud, and Noel Coward, all those beautiful, talented greats that we used to have in the United Kingdom. And he was there with them all, as Ian says, drinking them all under the table in the old Soho, not the current Soho. No, they wouldn't have been around that one, but the old Soho with all the journalists, before it went all posh. So anyway, Tom flirted, as we all know, for a little while with becoming a monk. Excuse me for, I can't see it. Can you lot? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I think chastity was the problem for Tom, I think.
Who's she? She might have been eventually, I don't know, but then eventually, as we all know, what
was chastity one of the nuns? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Hail Marys.
Again, read the biography.
I know, who on earth is Tom Baker?
With the curtains closed and having a brown paper bag while you're reading it.
Oh God, this is hilarious already. It's fabulous. So we did that. And then thankfully for all of us, of course, he got over that and got it out of his system, and he went and fell eventually into acting, which is similar to becoming a monk, really, isn't it? And his first, it was show business, his first proper acting job, for want of a better term, was as the bear in The Winter's Tale. And he was in a full bear's costume. Now that eventually took him on to other things. And what came up just there was he then got various roles in the National Theatre. He did all this sort of stuff. But the one that brought him to the attention of the aforementioned great Laurence Olivier, if you don't know who he is, kids, go and Google him. It'll come up. He was the horse in, I can never say this, The Travails of Sancho Panza. And here's Tom here as the horse.
As Rosinante, I think she's called. He's called. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Because I have
You're welcome.
But can you tell who it is yet? Yes,
I mean,
very
you
is.
see people going around dressed like that all the time now, don't you? But at least he was on the stage doing it.
Yeah,
Well, that's true.
He then identified as a horse, Ian. That's what you're saying.
For about 6 years.
Yeehaw!
Yeah, for about 6 years, and that's where he met Laurence Olivier and his wife there as well. And he started going to all these very grand parties, the detail of which are in the book. Who on Earth is Tom Baker? You've got to track it down, who viewers. If you haven't got it, you've got. I mean, his character just comes out, doesn't it, Paul? In all of that.
Definitely, yeah.
And then he's up and off. To an extent, he wasn't. He says in one of his books or what have you that he was expecting to become a star quite quickly, and that didn't quite happen to him. But he got there eventually, didn't he? I'd like to say hello to everybody that's watching us in the chat. It's absolutely fabulous, and you're all very busy. So I'm going to go here. George is telling me, excuse me. A friend of hers worked for HarperCollins, and she asked, this is his agent, and she asked if they, Jackie Lane that was, and she asked if they would be interested in Tom's autobiography, and literally a day later, the contract was signed. There we go. Wow. That's really good, isn't it? Simon here is also saying, Life and Loves of a She-Devil. We haven't forgotten that. We're coming to that very soon. Get to that. We're going to love that. Talking about priesthoods. I hope I said hello to all Huff and Puffing, says Tardy Spider. Well, if you didn't, we'll do it for you. Tardy Spider says hello to all Huff and Puffing. Okay, there we go. And here's Raymond. Raymond, welcome. It's lovely to see you. I was going to say to him, he's a very handsome chap, but then I realised who it was. Tom underrates his performance as the Doctor. He said he just played himself, but that's not true. There is a lot of him in his Doctor, but he did say in an interview that he wanted to touch on being an alien. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was actually showing his skill as an actor. Hopefully this show will also highlight some of that, because we're going to go through some of our favorite moments. So we've got all that. That's right. George has also added Joan Plowright. He became very friendly with Joan Plowright, for Larry's wife. They did, and she supported him a lot according to that book, and really encouraged him into the project. Do you remember that, Paul, in the book? Ian, do you remember that?
Yeah. Well, there's lots of references to Olivier and Joan and stuff, and parties and various actors like Anthony Hopkins and Derek Jacobi and all those kind of people.
I know, he really names drops.
Names drops. Why not? And why not?
Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Todd Spider said he's worn out typing hello. So he's saying hello to everybody there in the chat, because you're all having a cracking good time. So thank you. There's a cracking DVD too worth tracing down of him, says Peter. I've missed something there, obviously. I don't know what that one is, so let me know, Pete. Yeah, so much is going on, but let's get into look at some of our favorites. I think I have to say, guys, where I first saw Tom Baker was this. Now, this was from 1973. And of course, it's The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. Now, have you all seen this?
Oh, yes.
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 Kirsty, have you seen this?
Nope.
No, there's
I
so
didn't
much.
I'm telling you, get watched.
But this is my first recollection, basically, of something out of Doctor Who. Because being the age I am, the first time I ever saw Tom Baker, he was the Doctor. He was in Doctor Who. And then the BBC, and I'm sure it was the BBC, one Christmas, and I remember the smell of the tinsel guys and the mince pies and all that, put this on. And here he was playing a baddie. And I was just as entranced with this character as I was with the Doctor. And it was just insane. You know, here he was chasing Sinbad, who I'm supposed to like, but I actually started to think, no, I'm siding with Tom. Do you guys remember seeing this when you were kids?
I remember seeing it as a kid, and there's not just this film, but lots of other films were made around that time, like Vault of Horror and obviously Nicholas Alexander. All that kind of stuff was on roughly the same time. I remember seeing Tom. I always used to watch Tom in programs I knew he'd be in, you know, after Doctor Who, during Doctor Who, that kind of thing. And he's got lots of lovely films. Yeah,
it really was. Jack, I agree with you here. Classic Harryhausen. I mean, when you look at them now, they are still beautiful, aren't they, everybody? Even though, you know, you've got the sort of plasticine or something like that, the modeling clay type thing, the stop. I mean, those films took them bloody years to make. And now they whip things up with the CGI and it loses a little bit. Maybe that's my generation. Maybe that's because I grew up on these. But it's absolutely beautiful. And it actually was good stead, because this was obviously the role that Barry Letts and Terence Dix went to see him in at their local picture. That's the story, isn't it, guys? Yeah. And they went and they saw this and they thought, that's our doctor. We've got to get him in. And we all know the story on this. But it put him in good stead because he had to deal with things like this. And things that weren't there. So, you know, it just it set him up beautifully for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And the dance,
I remember
that thing with all the arms is great. I know
isn't it just?
But when it does the dance and stuff, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and it wasn't CGI, kids. It wasn't CGI. It was an actual model, and it was all done through bit by bit by bit by bit. I remember them saying something like it took a year for them to do that one scene and adding it into the film with Tom. So I just thought, God, there's so many effects. It must have taken ages in those days. Good for them, I say.
Proper skill.
Aye,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Timeless stuff, and it still kind of holds up as well. I think.
Yeah.
The way
I think
they
stop motion
CGI
adds to the creepiness of the characters as well, don't you think? That sort of jumpy movement they have.
Yeah,
but they're kind of physical. You know that they're little in real life, but they're a physical thing, and it kind of makes it scarier. Like a man in a suit scarier than a CGI thing.
Oh yeah.
I remember watching this. Must have been in the 90s. It was a repeat on the telly. And
oh, here we go with the young ones, I tell you.
Okay, this was not the first thing I saw him in outside of Doctor Who. But, like I mean, it's a great film, and the art, as you mentioned, the skill of using stop motion to create something that's a feature-length film is incredible, and Tom's great in it.
He's just superb, and that's why I felt myself as a young, I must have been, 5, possibly 6 when I first saw this film on the BBC. And because by then he was my doctor, but I think it's the performance, Bedouin, that got me going into, no, I like Tom best in this. And we know now, of course, it's because I'm completely biased and I love him to bits. But he stands out the most in that, doesn't he? He's got that wicked glint, and then the way he delivers his line. And you can come across it now when it's on all these lovely other channels we've got now. And every time I pass it, I have to watch it. I have to sit down.
It's interesting. A contemporary actor at the time was in the same film as Martin Shaw from Professionals.
Right.
He's one of the crew of Sinbad's crew.
Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, I know what happened to him. Yeah.
He spent a little bit of time jumping over cars, I believe, but that wasn't very popular at all. No, not like Doctor Who. No, that's rubbish. So we've got here, just John says, a proper Sunday film. Go on then, Bedouin.
Yeah, I think as we go through this list of things we remember him in, it's always Tom that stands out because he's just got this energy and charisma, and Voyage of Sinbad.
Tommy kind of glitters, doesn't he? Really? Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. George is here telling us he was Tom's runner during Treasure Island at the Mermaid Theatre winter 81 to 82, and I can tell you firsthand he's a phenomenal actor and man. That is wonderful to know.
Wow,
isn't it? What? How was it? Just on that performance, then, George? Was it just on that one? Let us know a bit more. Ooh, how lovely is that, though, to get something like that?
Quite a memory.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate that. That's wonderful.
That'll stay with you forever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it will. It really will. What else we got here? Oh, thank you very much, everybody, for your chats. Keep them cute. Oh yes, Pete's saying. With the beautiful Caroline Munro in the film with Tom. Trust Pete to remember that. But yes, she was, wasn't she?
Glitters as well. Yeah. So.
Sci-fi and fantasy legend. She glitters in more ways than one in that film. So there's a bit where she shows a bit more than she intends to. I'm sure there is. And Raymond is saying, I'm surprised that role in Sinbad didn't lead to bigger things for Tom. It's a great performance. It's staggering to believe he ended up working on a building site to make ends meet. It is, because that's what happened. He did the film Sinbad and then he couldn't get any work. And that's how the business works, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Even though he's got a hit worldwide film on at the ABC, no one's going to bloody employ him. It was ridiculous. Thank God he wrote that letter. The Gorgon in Clash of the Titans, right?
Yeah, it convinced Terrence Dicks and Barry Letts to.
And the rest is best for us, isn't it? The rest is all for us. Jack's saying the Gorgon in Clash of the Titans has to be best on screen. Yeah, well. Well, we're talking about that in part 2, that sort of stuff. And Ray Harryhausen championed him for the part after Rasputin in Nicholas and Alexandra. The part was originally going to go to Christopher Lee. Now, I didn't know that, George, and that's interesting because I can't see Christopher Lee doing that properly, the way that Tom did. Tom had a sort of mysterious, magic, dark quality to him, didn't he? Whereas Christopher Lee would have just played Dracula.
Would have been stern and horrific, yeah.
Yeah. Well, talking of Rasputin in Nicholas Alexandra, have any of you actually seen this?
No.
Yeah,
Seen clips.
What do you think of it?
it's quite a long film, I have to say. But Tom's performance is great, and again, there's so many people of the time, like Ralph Richardson, Laurence Olivier, Brian Cox is in it. So many famous, and Michael Jason's in it as well. Lots of people
Michael
in it
Jason,
who, you would know from sort of 70s and 80s film and television.
Yeah, I have to say, I tried to watch this, and maybe it's that time in my life now where I can go back and actually watch it and get something from it, but I thought it was boring as hell.
It's a bit dreary, yeah.
Well, but you watch it for Tom, because we're Tom
Yeah,
fans, we're Doctor Who fans. So every time he comes onto the screen, it's all about Tom. But when he's off the screen, you just think, oh, it's a really weird film. Would anybody in the chat recommend watching it? Because I don't know if I would, to be quite honest. Apart from Tom, you can forward the bits, but Tom's not in.
Well, I've tried to watch it a couple of times, and I do get a bit sidetracked and never finish it. But
because life takes over, does it?
that's it. Yeah.
It's a very, very strange film at all. So, but that didn't seem to do much for him, did it? Really? We've got. What have we got here? Oh, Simon is saying he was once in Ray Harryhausen's home. The walls had a shelf all around the room filled with all the animated models. It was incredible. That would keep me up at night. That would, right? And then he said he bent the Cyclops' arm a bit. You're so cheeky. How could you do that? It's a great movie. If you haven't watched it, well worth getting a physical copy. That's about Sinbad, isn't it, Peace? Doing that. Here's Woodhouse 122. Hello. It was recently shown on Legend TV. Do you know what? I think it's on Legend TV channel every other hour. But it's great, though, isn't it, when you get to see, actors that we know, especially Tom coming up there all the time. Yeah, so we've got. I'm not saying reading that one. That's rude. Here's George coming back to me. He lied his way into a backstage job at the Mermaid for the production of Treasure Island that year and ended up being Tom's runner. You naughty boy.
Oh, brilliant.
Good man.
That's how the industry used to work, I'll tell you. It was just... If you showed any aptitude, you were in there. Gore Vidal is saying, I discovered Doctor Who in the 80s when public television broadcast episodes here in the US. This wasn't Star Wars, Star Trek, Buck Rogers, or Battlestar Galactica, which dominated American television. No, of course not. And it would have been a real culture shock for you, I'm sure, seeing our Doctor. Oh, right. It's a long slog, says Just Jordan, about this will be Revenge of the Cybermen, made better by Tom, but not recommended. Yeah. As part of this season, Just Jordan, we're going to be looking at and reviewing the latest silver screen release of Tristan Carey's soundtrack to Revenge of the Cybermen. It's called Tin Soldiers, and it's coming up as part of our Tom Baker season here, so look out for that. Yeah. So that's really, really good there. And George is saying a lot of Tom's scenes were cut from Nicholas and Alexandra due to sensitivities with surviving descendants of the... I've read that. Is that in the book? That might be in the book.
I don't remember that reference, and maybe I don't remember that though.
Maybe it was in the magazine then. There was a certain bit where Tom said that, and also certain bits where I'm sure he had said that, in a sense, he'd been told to play down this whole Rasputin character, because even by then there was a Boney M single. Right. Ooh, controversial. So we've got all this. No, what are the memories? What are the memories that we got here, guys? Where can we go next? Let me ask you guys. Where do you want to go next on this? Give me a memory.
Well, can I vaguely touch on? Someone mentioned a couple of other movies of his. Vault of Horror, which is a kind of vignette film, but it's got different little sections in it, and he's the one about voodoo, which is fantastic if you've not seen it. And there's one with Terry Thomas, which is really funny as well. Recommend it. And then Mutation. Someone mentioned The Mutations, which is a really bizarre film with Tom playing this disfigured character, dressed a bit like the Doctor in it. And Donald Pleasance is doing experiments on people to create... It's a bit like Frankenstein meets Quatermass a little bit kind of thing. It's interesting.
I've not seen those at all. I wonder if they're going to be... Does anybody know if they're repeated on the television these days? Just Jordan's correcting me. I was meaning Nicholas and Alexandria. Okay. But not inaccurate about my current Doctor Who viewing. I'm glad I'm not the only one that can't get it, because apparently it was a hit, that Nicholas and Alexandria. And I suppose it's because of the time when it was shown. They didn't have anything else to do. But honestly, maybe now at the age I am now, 29, I should really look at it. Look at it now. I don't know.
I keep trying to find. Did he do something with Tommy Cooper?
Ooh.
No, he did something with Eric Morecambe, but not Tommy Cooper.
Yeah, I thought I'd seen some photos of him with Tommy Cooper. I might just be going senile. I don't know, but
I know Bill Hartnell did a film with Tommy Cooper called "And the Same to You" with Brian Ricks from the 50s. Great film if you get a chance to see it.
I don't know. I mean, I would have been interested to see Tom with Tom and Tom together, wouldn't I? I would have liked to have seen that. That would have been quite interesting.
I'm going to check.
Yeah, have a check on that one because I don't know on that one.
I'd be batty otherwise.
Yes. So all that. So this is Tom. This is Tom becoming a little bit more towards his Doctor Who time now as well. When we're talking about Sinbad and Nicholas and all this sort of stuff, it's going. But he did an awful lot before that. I remember. I wanted to share with you guys that years ago when I was at a Doctor Who convention. Now, in those days, for those of you who don't know, in Doctor Who conventions, like today, they would be in a local hotel somewhere and you had to travel along. But I don't know if they do this as much now because there's so much available now to you on your phone and everything. But in those days, there would be a particular room at the convention, which would be like a cinema room. And it would be laid out and presented like a cinema, and they'd have a screen, or if it was very poor, a little telly. And you'd all huddle around the screen with your mates, you know, and a flask of tea. And you would look at all this stuff that was coming on. And we went to see something called Arthur of the Britons from 1973. Now, myself and my mates had never heard of this. We'd never heard of it, but we knew Tom was in it. So we went to see it. Oh, and this is it. That's it there. Arthur and the Britons. So in this, now this starred Oliver Tobias. There's a name. And it was a series on ITV. And this particular episode was originally broadcast on the 10th of October, 1973 on ITV. And Tom plays Brandreth the Celt. And the whole story about this was Brandreth the Celt wanted to ally himself with Arthur of the Britons to improve his own security. His twin brother was called Gavron, and he felt very differently. So therefore, there was this whole thing about the story was these two brothers not mixing with Arthur. It was fascinating, but we're sitting there watching this thinking this is a bit Robin of Sherwoody, about 10, 15 years before Robin of Sherwood came along. Yeah. And it was a bit sort of preempting the whole sort of, I don't know, Catweasel type genre that was coming along, the Dick Turpin genre, all that. It was so ITV though, you know, something that, I don't know, you know, it was just weird to watch it. The only thing I remember again though is Tom. Call me fickle.
You're fickle.
Hard for other actors. If you're going for a film or a TV part and you know you're opposite Tom Baker, you just know that all eyes are going to be on him, aren't they? It's just he owns the screen in everything he's in. Any scene he's in, it doesn't matter how many other people are there. You're focused on Tom Baker. You just can't help it. He's you know, magnetic. I know that's a easy phrase to use, but he is.
But didn't Maggie Smith say something like that once? Or one of these greats there, somebody was something along the lines of everybody's looking at him. It might have been Derek Jacobi. I don't know, but it's one of these name actors because he's played with everybody. He's acted with everybody, and it might even be Michael Jaston, who he became quite pally with, didn't he? Actually, you know.
Well, apparently Michael Jaston got an appointment at the dentist for Tom, and that's why he's got that fantastic smile.
Oh,
he has some work done apparently, and Michael Jaston slipped him some money to pay for it apparently. So yeah.
Wow.
I did not know that. I don't know. Arthur the Britons is saying quite rightly that Brian Simon said Brian Blessed was in that. He was, and I think he was a regular as well. I haven't watched any of the other stuff. I haven't watched any of the other episodes, but I know it's a cult classic, as most of those stuff has become now. But that episode, I do remember. I just remember the excitement of us being able to go to this thing and see this as part of this convention. It was. I'm going to say the word. It was magical because none of us had seen this. It was brand new stuff with a young Tom. The year before, of course, he gets the big gig, really, for him. It was just so weird, but it reminded us all of everything that we grew up with, the Robin Sherwoods and the Dick Turpins and all that sort of filmed quality, gorgeous stuff you get on what became children's ITV, you know. Yeah. Pete's saying here, Tobias was a bit like a Conan figure, unforgettable. Ooh. I seem to think he was all over the place, wasn't he, then, back when we were kids? Did anybody else remember Oliver Tobias? Is it just me? Oh.
I remember him vaguely, but I couldn't tell you what he was in. But...
Didn't exist back then, so.
Yes, thanks, Kirsty. Cheers.
Thank you.
So anyway,
She'll hold the call now.
Every time, Who viewers, she has to remind us that she's young. Yeah. Wait till you see the chit chat we've done with her. She's all like, "Oh, I'm only 17. I'm only there."
Yeah. I can't wait.
George is saying that Tom signed a multi-picture contract with Columbia after the success of the Sinbad movie, but then they pulled out of UK film production, so he ended up on the building site. Is that what it was, George? Yeah, because I think a lot of us who read stuff about that particular time, we all realised just what effect Columbia moving out of the UK had on the film industry here. It was, yeah. And he's also saying Maggie Smith was full of praise for Tom when they did The Millionairess in '72. I think it's about right that. Simon is saying he was in Z-Cars. He was in Z-Cars, Softly, Dixon of Dot Green, and 30-Minute Theatre. There you go, all there. Oh, The Stud ended Tobias's career. Joan Collins took off again. She liked me. That's all I'm saying on that one. So we've got... she was lovely. I love her to bits. We've got a couple of people mentioning some other stuff here. Thank you very much. Keep it coming on. We're going to jump forward a bit because I did notice, excuse me, that Josh Jordan was saying something much later. But he was fun in Fort Boyard. It was fun and silly. Yeah, I'm glad you remember that one because I'd never heard of it until my sister mentioned it yesterday. And she said that oh, Tom Baker was in Fort Boyard. To which I had to look at her with complete and utter pardon, thinking it was some sort of Mr. Kipling cake or something like that. But no, it's not. It's an actual TV show, isn't it, Paul?
It is. And it's a cross between The Crystal Maze and those who remember the adventure game from the 80s.
Yay!
Thank you. And they get some groups of contestants who are quite physically fit to do lots of activities and find clues and keys to get the money and all that kind of stuff at the end.
Yeah, but look where they dumped the contestants. It's very today. They dumped them on a bloody prison.
Yeah, well, it's a sea fort like the one in the Sea Devils, very similar to that. It's been done up. And Tom would deliver really cryptic clues and they'd have to guess the answer, then get a key to get to the next box, to get to the next clue, etc., etc. But if they got the answer wrong, he chucked the key in the sea, bizarrely.
They did not.
Yeah, that's what we do. And then after he'd done his bit, he'd do a bit to camera, which is completely bizarre and off its head. And then they cut to the next bit. And he just waffled for 5 minutes. It's fantastic stuff. Pure gold from Tom. Brilliant stuff.
It's totally bizarre. It's totally bizarre. He did this in the 90s. Apparently, this thing was huge because it ran for years, according to my notes here. When I was looking,
there were different captains. The Jeffrey Belden did it for a short time as well.
Jeffrey Belden before Tom.
Yeah.
Spot the difference there. But it does seem it was absolutely. And I'm great. Thanks, Just Jordan, for mentioning that one because I was very surprised with this. But as you can see on the caption, as Captain Baker. But when I started looking at this and found out where they put them all, I was just like, that is so today, isn't it? It's absolutely so today, where they stick him in a jungle somewhere with poisonous
acid. It's all been done before.
Well, that's television as a whole, really, isn't it, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. He did it in 1998 to 2003. Right. Wow. Yeah, I think that ties in that one. It was great. And tigers were released, I remember, or was that later in Boyard?
Yeah, they had tigers as well. That's right, Peter. Yeah.
It's in the middle of the sea. How did they get the tigers into the middle of the sea? Did they give them a lovely first-class boat, or did they just winch them in on a helicopter? I'm know.
Sure someone was mauled by a lion at some point, probably as well.
Did we have health and safety in the 90s? I can't remember.
Probably not.
Not so much.
No, not
It's more than that.
Oh my God. Again, thanks to everybody that's watching us, and thank you for all your fantastic chats. Keep them all coming. Keep all your memories of stuff here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. This is the start of our mighty, as I'm calling it, for the mighty Tom Baker season, where we are paying homage to the man whose birthday is on Saturday the 20th. He's 90 years old. And we thought it would be fun just to talk about all this. Now I've just noticed in the chat that Peter's brought up another one of my favourite memories from when I was a kid, FMA, and it's this. Peter Harrington is saying, the book tower. The book tower. Phil, do you remember the book tower, or are you a whiskerless youth?
I used to turn over when it came on because it was about books. So I probably would have made the switch from CBBC to CITV, depending which way it was.
He's absolutely terrible, isn't he? A few viewers, he's incorrigible.
But apologize for that.
Come on, though. For those of us that remember, this is the book tower, and this, I love this. Even the theme tune, which we can't even play you. Wasn't the theme tune just so mysterious? But this suited Tom down to the ground, because we all know he was an absolutely fantastic supporter of getting kids to read. He would read constantly himself. He was always reading. He was reading things from mighty volumes to whippet shit. He was reading and reading and reading, and he loved it. But I was mesmerized even by this show because it was just so out there. Yeah, it was so out there. You will remember this, Bedouin, really, because you're a young thing as well. Yeah, but this was on every week.
But I'm learning so much. I've not even Port Boyard was in my recollections at all.
No. Well, don't worry about that.
Very lucky in that respect, yeah.
Bring it back. But no, the book tower is something I think they should desperately bring back today, because Tom was fantastic. And what he would do, it was a spin on Jack and Nori, which we've spoken about on the show before as well, which was on the BBC, where Monday to Thursday, a celebrity would come and read to you, and they'd read the story, and then you'd toddle off to the bookshop if you were lucky and buy it, or go to the library and borrow it, whatever it was going to be. But Tom showed you some of the books that were coming out, that were about to be released, from picture book for young ones to what we would now know as teenage books, for young adults. And it was wacky. It was totally off its face. He was supposed to live in this tower thing, right, with a magic teapot. Do you remember the magic teapot?
Yeah.
And all the stories would come out of the teapot in different colours. And it was so eccentric, but I was entranced because it was Tom telling me how wonderful something was. And
I remember he did a similar thing for BBC for adults. It was a Halloween story, like horror stories. I think it's on one of the DVDs, maybe the Key to Time season, I think, on there somewhere. And he did.
Was that Spine Chillers?
Spine Chillers, that's it, yeah. And very similar, but it's a more adult theme, horror and that kind of thing.
Oh,
I think the thing with him in Book Tower, he was still a doctor, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
No, actually playing the doctor at the same time.
Yes, he was. Oh, yes. Yeah. He was doing the same thing. And Book Tower, of course, was the Yorkshire Telly. Eh?
Yeah. Seeing him twice on two different things was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was really, because it broadcast. You could see Thomas the Doctor on a Saturday. And I think in my region, this was on a Thursday. Yeah. In a Thursday evening. And you go and look at what Tom was saying. Oh, this is right. And it worked. Again, the power of Mr. Baker. I would go to the library all the time and say, "Do you ever got this one?" Because they used to have Book Tower posters eventually from which got into both the libraries and the shops. And Tom was on them. Do you remember? Grinning.
Well, it was on them or the cover of Lucan magazine as well. Remember?
Oh, I've still got that. I should have hunted it out. I've got my Lucan Book Tower cover with the little Smurf sticker in it.
Brilliant.
It's a great art piece as well. I'll show it you at some point as well. Remind me of who it was. But it was. I mean, this was. Yeah, and again, Pete's saying here his voiceovers are of legend, and they were. They totally were, because when Tom reads a story, as we know from the audio books, you are in the story. There's something about that fantastic voice. Didn't John Coleshaw do that sketch with him where he's playing Tom? Tom,
yeah.
And he said, "Our voice is mesmerizing, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And he does all that stuff. We really do have the best voice in history, don't we?
And then they keep repeating bizarre, like obscure words and do it in Tom's voice. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Hamilton Academicals or something like that. Things like that. Fantastic stuff, yeah.
Which is brilliant. But I mean, people outside the UK are going to think we're all loony, but this was British programming back then. And this is probably why our generation grew up as a little bit zany, let's face it here, but also realistic, because we had books all the time. And we had people like Tom to tell us about them, but it was totally weird. There's Tom on a donkey reading a book,
as you do.
Yep. There's Tom in the in the hole in the wall, which I think is something to do with a mirror, but I'm not quite sure. I can't remember where it was. I vaguely remember that frame, and occasionally pop his head through and go hello, you know, like Tom would do.
All he uses the scarf, and it's perfect, isn't it? Yeah.
And on the top right there, you've got something from the TV Times where Tom reading books, freezing to death on a beach. So yes, very British, but he loved it, and he did it for several years, and there were quite a few episodes a year while he was still doing Doctor Who. So he would go from London to Yorkshire and Yorkshire Television to film this series, and then doing Doctor Who. I mean, that's commitment to his young audience, and of course, it was great casting from Yorkshire Television because they knew, well, the kids are going to come from Doctor Who to look at Tom telling them what books to read. And the show was getting at something, you know, back then, about 4 million.
That's a hit.
Yeah.
I got that from the internet. Oh, it might have been fudged. I don't know. But that...
The 7-day figure was 38 million, apparently.
I'll buy that. Yeah.
Oh,
take into account all those that have recorded it and watched it later.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? If we did have Bedouin, the ability to record it, I think I would have video recorded every single edition of the Book Tower, because I've never seen it available on WWW.
And we'd
Never.
got 4 billion probably if it was recorded that way.
Yeah, well, it's just a shame. I wonder if Yorkshire Television, hi, hope you're well. Have you got this in your vaults? Is it down there with Emmerdale Farm? Because if it is, can you release it? Can you do something with it? Can you put it on the Tube of Who or something? Because there are lots of Doctor Who fans. I need to see it.
Well, it's probably been swallowed up by...
Nip round.
You could, yeah. Get down there. What are you saying, Bedouin?
No, it's probably been swallowed up by this sort of ITV archive and episodes of all sorts of things we've found in the last year have been miscatalogued and just left on the shelf that actually didn't exist before.
Well, look at this one, Jack.
If you remember network DVD releases, they had lots of classic shows, and they would have released something like that, but they haven't, have they?
No,
it's a shame. Network
they've shut down.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you that weren't there, I mean, this was Jack saying there's a full episode on the Tube of Who. I'm going to be looking for that, Jack. It's probably not. It was a very slow show, Kirsty and Bedouin, when you look at television today, because it was done at the time. It was done like a bit of theatre. Tom would be very, very calm, relaxed, trying to be whoever Tom Baker is. You know, he was trying to do that. So it's slow in a sense, but that's how our TV was back then.
Yeah. So not the anxiety-inducing rapid cuts of colorized Daleks.
No.
Nothing like that at all. We've stoked Pete up here as well. He's saying, "Release the Book Tower, damn it! Come on, Yorkshire Television. There's an audience there." Yeah, we'll put Pete in charge of that. George is saying, yes, some of Tom's Book Tower episodes or were on YouTube from domestic VHS records. Who could afford a bloody video recorder back then? That's amazing to think that. This must have been the late 70s, early 80s.
79, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it would have been. Yeah. Around about that special time for most of us as well. There's nothing like the late 70s, I can tell you. But it was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There we go. George was saying again, because he knew Tom, he would record an entire series of Book Tower in 2 days at Yorkshire and Leeds and then return to London for Who. Yeah, commitment as well as money. But I mean, it was just brilliant. Well, you would, wouldn't you? Come on, let's face it. It was the job. Do you know what I mean? But he knew, and the producers knew, and the casting knew. He had this, ability now to talk to the young people in a different way to the Doctor, and to tell us all about these books. And I've got some of the books that he suggested still over on the shelf there from when I was a kid.
Did they ever do on the Book Tower? Probably not. A kind of show about the Doctor Who Discovery series. That would have been a good show, wouldn't it?
I'm sorry for laughing. I'm sorry for
Nice
laughing at that. Yeah, at some point we will have to do a sequel to our On Target book, won't we? Our Target story, and we'll have to cover the Discovery series.
Doctor Who discovers minors. That's a different story entirely.
Oh, can you imagine if we had to do that sort of stuff today?
Oh, God.
We'll move on. Yeah. Peter Harrington is saying he's in one of the Narnia BBC stories from the late 80s.
Yes.
That's it?
That was my first one. Yeah, that was my first one. It was he was Puddleglum in The Silver Chair. Which was the BBC adaptation of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was quite highly regarded, I think, of that era, sort of early 90s. And they did a couple of others, and The Silver Chair was one that Tom was in. And again, Puddleglum is a great character for someone of Tom's enigmatic qualities. And yeah, it's released on. There is a DVD release of the BBC series of C.S. Lewis stories, which is available and is worth checking out if you like Tom. And
how old were you when this one came out then?
Good question. Around 7, 8.
Right.
It was. I was probably watching a repeat, so I was probably slightly older. So I don't know, 9 or 10. But yeah, in the middle of the 90s. That was my first encounter of Tom in something other than Doctor Who.
Yeah, because the BBC, of course, did do an entire series. They did The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I think they did The Silver Chair, and that was one that Tom was in. They did a couple, didn't they, before the money dried up? And
I think they did Voyage of the Dawn Treader, something like that. I think they did 3 of them.
I think they did. So they try. Why is it that everybody that tries to do the Narnia books only gets to about 3 or 4, and they can't do all of them? What goes on there? Answers on a postcard to whose views?
Well, because they always start with The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is the best one and the one people enjoy the most, and so more people watch that, and then your audience disappears when you've done something else.
Yeah, I must admit I never saw that because obviously by that point I was too busy working and going out a lot. But that's one of the things I missed about this. But I was aware that he was in it, and apparently he was great success in that. People loved his interpretation in that. It's great that young people got to see him again because it was a children's BBC show as well, wasn't it? It was on a children's tea time type thing.
How could he not be
I think so, yeah. Although it might have been like the sort of Sunday evening slot.
Yeah,
early Sunday evenings would be not
the old family drama slot.
But yeah, family drama. That was it.
Yeah, the old family drama.
Yeah.
You see, look at that comment from George there, right? He knew it could influence children, and he saw the book tower as a way to get children passionate about reading and books. Now, that is an absolutely brilliant and perfect and right way to influence young kids. You compare that now to Russell T Davies, who's get them young and get them transitioned. I mean, compare the two. It's just like what he commented there is just absolutely right.
Oh,
they got it then. Whereas now, dear God.
Well, I've just looked at the notes, and the Silver Chair that we're talking about here for the Narnia series was 1990.
Yeah, I would have watched it a few years later than that.
Right, yeah, it was originally on BBC television in 1990, which explains why I wasn't there. So there you go. Wait, who was going to say something then?
I was going to say about Tom probably had a lot of experience with the book signings for Target and doing all the different tours around the UK for the designer monster competition, all that kind of stuff. So he had a lot of experience of meeting children as the Doctor. So he always said in interviews, he speak to them and get an idea what they wanted to see the Doctor do and how children might react to things. So he was very much, he kind of understood children a lot, I think.
I think he still does.
Yeah.
Because now he meets all of us, doesn't it? And Phil, there's that lovely story, Phil, that Tom has now, is that he meets all of us, and we were the children that that grew up with him, and now they're suddenly coming along, and there's some old fella in front of him and says, "Oh, you were my Doctor, and here's my kids." And Tom goes, "Oh, this is lovely, lovely, lovely." But it must actually get him in a sense, thinking, "Oh my God!" But he's still good with people, isn't he? And he treats us like he would do, I guess, a child in a sense, because we're
when you were a kid.
Yeah, Yeah. You know what I mean? Did I ever tell you the
It's what
story I
want,
had?
isn't it?
I've got a story that people may have heard before, but I was in the Strand one Saturday or whatever it was. I'm walking down the Strand, yeah. And in the Strand in those days in London, the stamp centre was there, and they were selling lots of Doctor Who merchandise. I don't know if you remember. They sold lots of things, lots and lots of gorgeous things. And I used to hate going in there because they would come out with bags, lots and lots of bags full. Oh, they can't go in there, you can't go. Anyway, one day I thought I'll just walk past. So I was mincing past. And I looked in the window, yeah, and I was counting. Oh God, look at all these lovely things. And I was like, oh, that's new. Oh, I haven't got that one yet. Oh, I've got that. I've got this. And then, you know, when you're aware of somebody standing next to you, a little bit too close, really, and you think, okay, we're terribly British. You know, you just get on with this. You know, we don't question them. And then the voice said to me, I haven't been paid for that yet. And I thought, kidding me. And I looked, and it was Mr. Baker. And he just smiled that famous grin and walked away down the Strand. I was like, one of the most
I would be
surreal.
hyperventilating.
It was one of the most surreal moments of my life, Kirst, because he was just there, and then he wasn't. It was magical, and he made my week. I was just. I had to pinch myself. That really happened. I haven't been paid for that. So, Tom, I hope you were paid for whatever it was that you hadn't been paid for on that particular day at the stamp centre when you were looking in. How lovely. George is saying, told me about the book Tower Third Doctor. Oh, that's for you, Ian. That was good for told. Oh, there you go. Oh, thank you, Simon. That is. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favourites. One of my little favourite anecdotes. I tell it far too often, but I'm so proud of it because it was honestly, it's one of those surreal things in my life that you just think, did that really happen? And yes, it did. Okay, so let's get on to this. George is also saying to us about this. Don't forget his much maligned Sherlock Holmes in the BBC version of Hound of the Baskervilles in 1982, produced by Barry Letts. Now, there is a story to this as well, isn't there, everybody, about this particular one? Because he always says that the BBC were good to him to take him on for that, because this is very shortly after he's left Doctor Who, and he was, guess what? He was unemployed again, wasn't he, guys?
Yeah.
And then Barry Letts comes along and casts him as Sherlock Holmes in The Hound of the Baskervilles. And as George was saying there, it was much maligned because it wasn't that popular. And Tom did get a bit of criticism for his portrayal of Sherlock. Anyone remember this?
I think I was biased, but I quite enjoyed that. But didn't I have Caroline John in it as well?
That's right, yeah.
I thought it was really good.
I'd like to see it, actually. I didn't know it existed. I
really?
Yeah, just from them two pictures, I think it looks quite interesting. I'd like to see Tom Baker do Sherlock Holmes. Well, we'll get the video, Kirsten. We'll watch it one day.
Yeah, I think it is available on DVD. I'm sure it is.
It says here that it's still available. When I checked this, it's still available on BBC DVD.
Yeah.
So if it is, have a look and let us know if it's on that particular site. But you might even still be able to get it around in certain. You don't have to shop for it. But according to this, it wasn't deleted. It was still available. For my latest information, but there it was, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I actually didn't mind this at all, but it did come along. Not wanting to critique him at all, but it did remind me a lot of Talons of Weng Chiang.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just me. I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Well, I can agree with Ian. I think I was biased. I really liked it, and I think Tom's too hard on himself about how he feels about it. But I think he still feels a wee bit like the Doctor. But the Doctor and Sherlock Holmes are very much similar characters, I think, anyway. So that's fine,
Todd Spider is saying Brotbox. I think he means Britbox.
It's 11:25.
Sorry?
It's a German DVD, but the soundtrack's in English. So there we go.
There you go. So it's still there. You can go and get that there. And George is saying he also guested on episodes of Jemima Shaw Investigates with Patricia Hodge around the time of Baskervilles. Now, it's weird you say that, George. You'd think we'd plan all this sort of stuff. Yeah. I was watching that 3 weeks ago over the Christmas, just before the Christmas period, because it was on one of these other channels now. Because I'd never heard of Jemima Shaw Investigates, because the 90s I was working and I was going out a lot, so I didn't have time for TV. So all this stuff that's on all these repeats now from the 90s is brand new for me, and it's much better than a lot of the stuff we're getting today, I tell you. And I watched this Jemima Shaw because I like Patricia Hodge. And then Tom turns up, and I was like, what? Who is it? What's it? And it was just being Tom again, really, wasn't it? There's a slight character in that particular one, but he's loving it again, and he's just going for it.
You would have missed Remington Steele as well, then, if you're out partying, were you?
Who?
Remington Steele.
I'm aware of Remington Steele because that came along in the late 80s, didn't it? With Thingy that went on to be Bond.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
Pierce Brosnan. That's how he got the job on Bond, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Or was it because he worked with Tom and Tom got him the role, wasn't it?
Did he not
That's
miss out on being Bond first because of his contract with Remington Steele, and it went to Dalton, and then it was
yeah.
That's
Well,
why Timothy Dalton does his too.
Oh, well, what was Tom playing in Remington Steele?
He was a detective, like a private detective in it.
Oh, well, there you go. Surprising.
And an interesting raincoat, Mac, he was wearing, like not quite Columbo, but similar.
So he turned up. He turned up for work in his normal clothes. Then, really, bless him. Isn't it brilliant though? He's always got that same. He always had that same the long coat to this very day. You know, he's still wearing the long coat.
Talking about experience of meeting, I was at a local meeting in Glasgow once, and it was in '85, and he was touring around doing, I think, She Stoops to Conquer or something like that. And Tom turned up dressed in this fantastic outfit. He had a raincoat on, a trench coat on, kind of checkered colour, checkered pattern on it. He had some brown trousers, kind of shoes, a bit like David Tennant wears of the 10th Doctor, a pink shirt and a pink cricket jersey. And in his pocket, rolled up with a copy of the Times newspaper.
Oh, isn't that fantastic? That is brilliant, and it's just, that is actually so typical, isn't it? It's what we expect. Do you not think of the great man himself?
Yeah.
Completely.
Oh, 100%.
This is great from Woodhouse 122. He was channel zapping and came across Tom on QVC flogging Doctor Who merchandise.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I've got a story about that as well. Should I tell you?
Yes.
I auditioned for that and got the part, and then they scrapped the show. I was going to be the next presenter on this Doctor Who type thing, selling all this merchandise. I had a lovely audition. There was a certain person that was in Androids of Tara that was doing it. Paul, hi, he was doing it as well. We were developing this, and then they scrapped the whole idea of selling Doctor Who merchandise on the telly. I was so upset, everybody. I really was. Here's another one from George. An unmissable Tom moment was when Liz Sladen came through the doors on his This Is Your Life. He was so moved and delighted to see it, as was Liz. We're going to be investigating the relationship between Tom and Liz on our big birthday show next week, of course, when we delve really into Tom's time, 7 years as the Doctor, as part of our big birthday show. So, there was definitely something going, between those two, and a magic, wasn't there? Really, it was absolutely fantastic.
If ITV had any sense, they would release the recordings of Pertwee's, Baker's, and Davison's "This Is Your Life."
They can't because it's Thames Telly.
Yeah. Oh, is it Thames? Right.
Yeah, it was all done by Thames.
And of course,
Thames eventually went down the Thames. And thank God for all the hard work of the late and much missed network, because for them, of course, they got loads of these old classics, including a lot of the Thames on DVD. But now we've lost them as well, so God knows what's going to happen in the future.
What year that This Is Your Life was? Because I remember vividly watching that.
Even I remember watching it.
He was doing the book tour for his biography, so it must have been about 97, something like that.
I think it was 97 or 98. I did have that, and I can't find it in all my notes.
That makes sense.
It was around about that time anyway.
Great one. Yeah.
But that's available now on the Tube of Who as well. You can watch that one.
Yeah. And the Peter Davison one as well.
And the Peter Davison one, yeah. Gosh. Happy days, all these sort of things, isn't it? What we got? I'm just looking at the chat here as well. George is saying off topic, but Dalton was the first choice for 007, but he originally wasn't available because he was committed to Brenda Starr. Is that a woman or a TV show? It was then offered to Bronson, and then got trapped into Steel. Oh, you see the showbiz, you see? showbiz, it's all very dramatic, you know, even off the screen.
Should have just kept Roger Moore.
Kirsty, what was one of your favourite memories of Tom? You know, being the young one on the panel.
I've got a couple. I loved Little Britain when that first came out, and that was a bit naughty of me being a young one and staying up or overhearing episodes of Little Britain, and just we were talking earlier on about his voiceovers.
Yeah,
you get them to say the most hilarious thing and just narrating silly stuff. Yeah. It's just the voice. It just brings so much hilarity and warmth. Yeah. Then I also remember being wee and the Monarch of the Glen must have just been BBC Scotland. And a bit like how I've been saying as well. I'm just thinking,
Okay.
Yeah, it was network. We all got that.
Yeah, this was the BBC. Now, Kirsty told me about this, and I didn't know what this was. So I had to go and look this up. So tell me a little bit about this, because this is Monarch of the Glen, the BBC TV drama that ran for years, apparently.
Yeah. It ran for years, and it was up north. It was up in the Highlands. It was a castle that was at risk of going bankrupt, and it was ran by a very young Dawn, you know, in like Holby City nowadays, and then she did Wild at Heart. It's one of her first things I remember in, and taught what we're talking about as well. That just thinking back on it now, he was just playing himself. That mischievous twinkle in his eye. He was that kind of. You'd have like a granddad or an uncle that would just like, come here, let me tell you stories, and he's always up to some sort of trouble. And it is just that twinkling eye. I do remember that it was always on a Sunday night. It was close to like bath, teeth, bed. You knew not Christmas. School was coming the next day. What? And just the excitement of watching that. And again, my dad saying, "Oh, that's the Fourth Doctor," and then being like, "What?" And then seeing that again and thinking back now, it is him just bringing that kind of cheeky, mischief quality to life. But really, if you can find it, it's worth it. It's one of those cozy, you put on, watch it, you end up getting hooked, or you can do stuff in the background, have it on in the background. It was, again, we're missing that kind of feel-good Sunday night programme.
Was it a soap, Kirst? I mean, I don't understand, because we got these pictures here that I found for you from Monica.
It's a comedy drama, really. It's like a bit like Mind.
Yeah.
A comedy drama. Yeah, sort of
drama.
Well, this one's my favourite one. Look at this picture. Ta-da! Doesn't he look fab?
Originally, I don't know how many scenes Tom did. Originally started off with Richard Briers.
I go. Ian, what did you say first?
Tell Shooty, that's how you wear a kilt.
And Paul, what did you say?
Originally, Monarch of the Glen had Richard Briers in it first.
Yes,
and I've got that on my notes. Did 2 series of it, I think.
Yeah, so Richard Briers decided to leave, and then what happened then is that Tom came over to take over. So it was obviously a different character. He didn't regenerate from Richard Briers, did he?
Donald McDonald.
No, he didn't fall off a telescope and then hit the ground and then change into Tom. No,
do you know what? I look at some of these things that we've got on this, and I just think, you know, I can't believe I missed some of all this. And part of me is actually quite glad. But you know, if this ever comes on, so this ran for years. This Monarch of the Glen.
Yeah.
I was in primary school.
Halfway through, Kirsty.
Pardon?
Tom came into this halfway through.
Yeah, he did. He wasn't at the very beginning, but came halfway through, and it ran for years. And just watching it again and just being like, "Oh, that's the Fourth Doctor," but really knowing more about him, it's just watching him cause trouble in a castle.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant.
Well, he must have loved it, because he did it until the end of the show. Apparently, as was the way back in the day, he says, with no political bias at all, when a show started to lose its ratings, it was axed.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to Monarch of the Glen. Because what happened there is that, you know, the ratings were falling down, but then I suppose it was a long-running show, and there's only so many times you can go, "Aye, that's right, by the way." On a Sunday night, isn't it?
Well, interestingly, I have a little story about Monarch of the Glen. A friend of mine worked on it, and he played the policeman, the village policeman. And after recordings of the show, they stayed up north, so Inverness way up that way, to record it, and they used to go off to Tom's place for gin and tonics after filming. Apparently,
of course they did.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. And he'd entertain all their fellow actors with these stories and things like that. So it's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. That is truly incredible. It's truly amazing, isn't it? It's just Monarch of the Glen. I don't get it.
It's so if you can find it, catch it and watch it.
It's a lot of fun, GT. Honestly, it's a quite fun show.
It's a lot of investment for a lot of DVD box sets, isn't it? If it comes on the telly, listen. If anybody finds it on any of these other, bedangled, fancy, glittery channels that have suddenly appeared on my telly box,
it's on drama just now, I think, but they've been showing the Richard Briers ones, I think.
Right, I'll make a note. It's on drama. Be out. Right, there we go. Right, yes, we've got all that. So that's Monarch of the Glen, and that's one of Kirsty's. Well, that was your introduction to Tom, then, wasn't it? Before Doctor Who.
Yeah, getting told. I remember having my supper, being like, "Oh yeah, that was my Doctor," and then being like, "Oh, really?" And then getting shown the photos as well. And then it was a nice wee Sunday night program that I used to like to watch before I went to bed when I was in primary school, when I was a wee tot. So yeah, definitely recommend if you do get to catch it. It was one of those kind of feel good Sunday night programs on the BBC when they were really good, and you would just watch it. It was just nothing bad, nothing sad. They had different stories, and it just made you laugh, or it made you just be like, "Oh." And it was one of these cute that would just send you off your way for the week.
And then you come back the following week.
Tom was very mischievous in it as well, which was great.
Yeah.
What was he going off script?
I
can imagine he probably would.
He was having a time of his life, having fun doing it. You could tell he's just being like a naughty schoolboy. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know what? You surprised me. He's always got that little twinkle in whatever he does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Listen, I want to say thank you to everybody that's watching us. This is Who's Views, and we are starting our unashamed geek fest and fan love for the one and the only Mr. Tom Baker. Welcome to Who's Views.
You're watching the Tom Baker season on Who's Views. Remember to like this video and do subscribe to the channel. It's my personal favorite.
You heard it there from the man himself. Don't forget to like, to share, and also to subscribe. We've got lots planned for us.
I hope you got paid for this, JT. That's all I'm saying.
He was very bored. One take Tom. One take
Good
Tom.
man.
That's what we call him. One take. Listen, now we all know, of course, that the wonderful Mr. Baker isn't just known for telly. We talked about some of his films earlier on, but he was, of course, also known for theatre work. There's loads of theatre work that he did. But I remember a mate of mine seeing him, and Ian, you gave me some of the graphics for here, so thank you for that, because I didn't have to go and research. But a mate of mine came back years and years and years ago from seeing him in Educating Rita, and he was raving. He said, "My God, Tom is just made for this role. He grasps it, and he loves it, and it's fabulous." And wow, he plays Frank. And if you haven't seen Educating Rita, of course, this is about a woman that decides to improve her life. She goes to university and she does evening classes, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And Frank is the teacher, is the professor, and the relationship the two of them have is all sorts of. It's very warring. It's jarring. They come from two different worlds. Frank is very well read. He's well educated. He's confident. He's there to be a professor, and we all know what professors and teachers are like. They're all know-alls, and he's very much on that, Sorry,
Shots fired.
Oh, Jodie will get me for that tomorrow, I tell you. Sorry, Jode. But and she's not, basically. That's what I'm trying. She's not. And she's coming from a working class background. She wants to learn, but the frustrations of this. And apparently he was superb. And this went on tour around the UK and was a smash hit for Tom. It was Katie Fitzgerald, wasn't it, that he was with?
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah. I wish I'd seen this, because the movie version's fantastic. It really is. I'd love to have seen this.
Yeah. Well, they did it for a long time, the two of them. And you can still see some of the rave reviews when you research this now. You can still see the rave reviews from not just the trade, but also from the media in general. There's comments there from people as well when they used to ask at the door, what did you think of the show? And Tom comes out on top all the time. Oh, he was wonderful. And it was as though for a little minute there, everybody had forgotten he'd been Doctor Who. And that must have been a real relief, because suddenly he's Frank from Educating Rita. Yeah. So if anybody who's watching this, anybody in the chat, did you see, and what was your experience of Educating Rita on stage? Because it sounds from my mate that saw it as well, to this very day, he's always going, oh, he nailed it. He was just brilliant. You know, it's great that Tom had that success, wasn't it? You know, after Doctor Who.
I mean, I'm biased again, obviously, but he was really, really, really good. I saw it in York, and I can still vividly remember it. I mean, at one point, she criticised him for having a bit of a staccato voice, and she said, "You're like a Dalek." So, of course, everybody went crazy cheering, didn't they? Because Dalek, Doctor Who, and he'd just come from Doctor Who. So there was that reference. It was the first time I ever heard Tom Baker swear, because one of the lines is, he comes in from some meeting that didn't go well, and he just shouts, fuck them all. And I was like, oh, you said a swear, you know. And
wow.
And then one scene, he was absolutely shit-faced, and he says he was given a presentation and he fell off the rostrum, and everybody laughed, and then he went, twice, and everybody laughed. The timing was brilliant. It's just absolutely fantastic. And
I'd have loved to have seen this scene. I'm actually quite jealous that you got to see him. George is saying he saw Educating Rita in '84 with Tom and Kate Fitzgerald, and they were phenomenal. All due respect to them, but they knocked Michael Caine and Julie Walters out of the park. Now, of course, Michael Caine and Julie Walters did the movie version, which was a huge hit as well, because it's a damn good script. But casting Tom in the role of Frank, whoever did that was a genius, because that is perfect, isn't it? I mean, Tom is perfect for that role. And I mean, were you mesmerized, Ian, when you saw him?
Totally. I mean, I was dead excited as well, because I got to meet him as well a couple of days later backstage, just for and it was like, looking. I've met him twice, a few years apart. The second time was when he was doing a book signing for the autobiography, and both times, you know, several years apart. You know, one I was still at school, early 80s. The other one, you know, I've been working for a few years, and a lot older. And both times I could hardly bloody speak. I was such a fanboy, you know. It was. I know I'm biased, but it was really, really good. It really was. Those rave reviews were bang on the money. It was brilliant.
I mean, he's a proper theatre actor as well, Tom, isn't he? Because that's where, as we said at the top of the show, that's where he was learning his trade in theatre. And that's fantastic.
His voice carries. It's perfect for an auditorium like that. His voice just, you know, nowadays you get them with microphones, don't you? He didn't need that. He was just
no. Yeah, I couldn't see Tom needing a microphone. I mean, for those people that have seen him at conventions, he never needs them. He's like, hello. We're all like, ah.
You know? Taking the windows out, I think.
Yeah,
brilliant. Just to answer Pete here, was Katie and Brookie? I thought it was Corrie, but she was a very popular actress, so she might have been in both. Somebody find out in the chat and let him know. And Garbage is here. Tom swears. He saw it on the YouTube outtake with K9. You're never any effing help when I need it.
I've seen that. That's brilliant.
Have all of you heard the recording of him doing the voiceover for the commercial? And he swears every 2 seconds. He's swearing in it. It's fantastic. I can't remember the name of the recording. It's a voiceover for some insurance or something like that.
Oh, really?
And it's really funny. I'll need to try and remember what the name of it, and I'll let you know. But it's very, very funny.
Oh, yeah. Some of the Doctor Who outtakes are hilarious.
Yeah.
The ones we've seen. I wonder how many are still with Tom in, locked in the vaults, because they can't actually even show us. Because he does have that wicked sense of humour. We're going to come to his sense of humour very shortly. Before we do that, though, there's something else I want to talk about. Somebody's mentioned it in the chat as well. The Life and Loves of a She-Devil. Now, this was another programme that Tom was in that was massive. And if you were there at the time, this was getting a lot of coverage. for various reasons, because it was very, oh gosh, what can I say about this? He was playing another priest, another vicar here, and he was larger than life in this. Oh, surprise, surprise! I hear you all say.
Yeah.
I mean, what can we say about this?
It was very controversial, wasn't it?
It was controversial. It was based on the novel, of course. This was the original television show. I know they did a Hollywood remake years later, which was a massive flop. But this was the original TV show, and it was written by the late Faye Weldon. And it had Patricia Hodge in it again. She was playing the author, wasn't she? She was playing was it Mary, the character's name?
It was Mary, yeah,
it was Mary. Julie T.
And
Wallace.
Dennis Waterman was her husband, wasn't he?
Yes, Dennis Waterman and Julie T. Wallace, who also went into a Bond film eventually, didn't she? She made her debut on this. Do you remember?
Yeah, she had this incredible wart on her face, didn't she?
Oh, she did. Yeah, she had this big thing there to make her look.
Makeup.
Yeah, it was makeup. Yeah, because the whole thing about Julie T. Wallace is that the husband was cheating on her with this very rich author who was very glamorous and very big and wealthy and furs and all this sort of stuff. And she was a downtrodden, ugly, large woman scrubbing the pans and all that sort of stuff, doting on her husband, and he just rejects her. And then when she finds out she's having the affair, of course, all hell breaks loose and she goes out to take revenge. She glams up a little bit, do you remember? And then Tom comes into it.
She goes quite far by the end as well, didn't she? But I don't want to spoil it if anyone's not seen it, but the twist at the end is very good, isn't it?
Oh, the twist is amazing, and I didn't see that one coming. But Tom plays another father. He's good at these. He plays Father Ferguson, who becomes friendly with Julie T. Wallace's character. To cut the story short, though, you get to see Tom's bum, basically.
Yeah.
Is that what they won the BAFTA for?
I think so. Yeah. The best bum goes to Tom Baker. That was it. Yes.
But it was another huge show. Yeah, it was massively popular. It was massively popular. And people again saw another side of Tom.
Literally.
But he was getting further and further away, of course. I'm trying to say, it was getting further away from the Doctor Who image. He's never getting away from that image, especially now as we've all come of age. But I remember watching this religiously. I think this was on a Wednesday night or something like that, and I'm loving every minute of it. It was just so rich. The acting was superb. The direction on it was brilliant. You had all these wonderful shots between the glamorous woman and the not so glamorous woman, and then he comes along as this really, really larger than life father. He was taking the pee out of the whole thing, wasn't he?
Did he have an Irish accent? I can't remember.
I think he tried that. Yeah,
he tried that. Yeah.
I think he tried that. But he was absolutely off his box, and he was going to town with this whole thing. I'm playing another priest here. You've got to watch it to see what I mean, because he took the pee big time. He really did. He was ahead of his time with this role when it comes to that sort of thing, I tell you. Honestly.
I haven't seen it, but from that picture alone, he looks terrifying in that picture. If you told me that was some horror film and he was some crazy priest, I'd 100% believe that. From that picture, I wouldn't believe he's a larger-than-life kind of semi-comedy kind of character.
I don't know if it was supposed to be comedic. It might have just been the way Tom played it, but I found him hilarious because basically this is a very, very aroused father from the priesthood.
Okay.
I'm trying to be very polite. Anyone young, you get my meaning. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
To quote William Shakespeare, to make the beast with two backs, I think it's called.
We lost. It was some of the lines he came out with as well, and the way that he presented certain lines. You go and look it up as well, because I don't want to look at them. But there was certain, and you just got the double entendre beautifully, Tom. Well done. I love him in that role. I used to have it on DVD, but an ex has nicked it, and if you're watching, please send it back. Anyway, we're over that one. It's handy having a show like this, isn't it? Where you can send messages to certain people and that nick thing from your collection when you're splitting up. Yes. So anyway, we've got all that. So that was the life and loves of a she-devil. We're now going to talk about Tom's sense of humour. What do you think? Because he's done a lot, and Kirsty touched on the stuff there. Some of you in the chat have also been touching on some of Tom's more comedic side and some of the comedy roles he's had. And what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of those, but we have to remember as well that in this day and age, we have to give you a warning, because some of these roles may today be considered problematic. Yes, so that's your warning. If you are of a certain disposition, please look away now. Because this might, because I have to say, some of the comedy Tom has done is fabulously naughty, isn't it, Paul?
Oh yes, indeed, yes.
Right. So we're going to start with the famous one. Well, we'll start with the second famous one, actually. And Kirsty's disappeared, but we're going to start with this. Here's a little game for everybody. What is this?
Yeah.
Little Britain.
Little Britain.
And it's so problematic. Look at this. Yeah. This is Little Britain, of course. And Tom was famous for this with a whole new generation. Okay?
Yeah,
no. I want that one. And of course, the famous phrase there on the right, lady, when it was so obviously it wasn't very topical for today. But the whole thing about this, of course, is that Tom was the narrator, as Kirsty touched on there. He was the narrator and brought those scripts to life beautifully, didn't he?
Yeah, he'd say things like, as we're covering problematic things, he'd say things like, meanwhile in Minge, or something like that, and then you go somewhere else. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. It was always, it wasn't even double entendre, it was right in your face, wasn't it, Little Britain?
Yeah.
And the way he delivered them all, Phil, it was just beautiful lines, and things like stupid things, absolutely stupid. Somebody in the chat mentioned there earlier, they are repeating on That's TV right now, Little Britain, but yes, it's been hacked to hell. It's on every night, Badweer, but they're running around about 10 minutes.
As long as that, I'm really surprised.
Wow. They've got 10 minutes out of it. Wow.
It's 10 minutes. But some of the stuff, though, guys, and everybody in the chat, some of the stuff they've kept in, I'm quite surprised about, because these characters are still there.
Yeah.
And I thought they'd be the first to go now, because, of course, a certain showrunner might not like these characters right now.
I mean,
well, part of the problem, well, there's many reasons, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, Little Britain was massive, wasn't it? It was huge.
Everybody watched it.
And now you just think they couldn't possibly make that show now, because the implication of people in wheelchairs faking it, the posh English woman who vomits when a black person has made her a cupcake,
that's terrible. Do you know what, though? That's one of my favorite characters ever in a comedy, which is and all this stuff comes out, because it's so cool, because the tube is fixed to David Walliams' face here, here, and down to here. And I love the way they just did it, and it's always got to be like this, hasn't it? So that you can't see the. I love it. It's just so cool. I'm probably going to get hate mail now. I don't care. It made me laugh. But that bit is still in the shows they show now.
They also did a character, I forgot the character's name, with special needs as well. Additional special needs with a lady wandering around. She was let into the community. Played by David Walliams, which is very problematic now.
He used to go, and then
it is brilliant, because this actually came at a time, and apparently, if I remember rightly, Tom was out of work again for a little bit of while. And then when he got the Little Britain gig, he started to say, it's great because my career's taking off again. And I'm paraphrasing him, because the kids that grew up with me when I was in Doctor Who are now employing me. And it was true. And he delivered the voiceovers to Little Britain in such a comedic way that the whole of the UK, because as you're saying, this was a massive show in the UK. It gave us sayings such as, computer says no.
Yeah. And I can't watch Nice One if I'm laughing and that line comes out, So.
Yeah, and believe it or not, people, back when this show was out, we were all running around going, "Ooh, I'm a lady." We were all doing it.
We used to in school in class. We used to go.
Yeah, I mean, there was
in class. We were just being a teacher. I remember going.
We're in trouble now.
In the background.
Yeah. Oh, it is terrible, but it was funny. It was funny, and it was a huge hit, and it reinvigorated Tom's career again, and he absolutely loved it. George is saying his best LB voice was, "I read a book once. It was called Who on Earth is Tom Baker? Utter rubbish." That was on the other week. I saw it. I saw that was. I was just laughing because I knew this show was coming up. I thought we've got to remember that, and then I didn't. But you know, it's brilliant.
Online, Facebook and Instagram, Little Britain's coming up to their 20th anniversary. So they're releasing clips right now of different things. So you get to hear him. So this morning it was like at the Kelsey Grammar School, giving it big licks. So it catch it online. So you get to see old clips that they're doing to celebrate the 20th anniversary. It's priceless.
Didn't he say
something? Bringing it back, though, isn't there?
Yes, they're bringing it back. They're bringing back they're bringing back a woke version.
Right, right.
No, that's going to flop. Why are they going to do that? That's not going to. One of my favorite characters on this thing, of course, and I remember this because it was on just the other week there, where the voiceover introduces David, the only gay in the village, and to hear Tom Baker say, "I was a gay once."
Party and Colton's fan way.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. And he said something, and to hear him saying things like cock and stuff like that. They just didn't care back then. And in context,
Maddock as well. Maddock, who does the mum, and she does things like saying the C word and stuff like that. And it's very funny hearing her say things like that. These iconic people are fantastic saying things you didn't say.
Yeah, but it was the 90s. We'd grown up, as you say, with all these icons, and to hear them all. I mean, honestly, it was so big. I mean, every gay bar I went to in the 90s, of course, we're all going, "I'm the only gay in the village." And it was...
I mean, it's really difficult to get across how massive Little Britain was. I mean, you showed a picture there. There was a video game for it. There was a live tour. It was massive. I remember when
the live tour was hilarious.
Having the box set on DVD of
Me too.
It was a phenomenon of its time. A phenomenon.
The live show had a fantastic moment. They got Dennis Waterman in, and he appears as himself in it, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Another thing, and Tom did the voiceover for the theatre shows.
Oh, did he?
And it was hilarious. I remember the one we went to. There was things saying, "Have you all taken your seats now? Well, can you put them back, please?" It was just outright. And at one point as well on the screen, the Tom voiceover was going on, and the police box spins through the title sequence, and he said something along, "What the F is that?" It was hilarious. It was so big, but today, of course, it is problematic. We'll have to see what the new version is like. I hope they employ Tom again, because he might be able to bring some sort of wickedness to it. Because you know, I suppose
because he's 19, he can get away with it. Yeah,
because he's 19,
he won't care.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's have a look. Pete's saying here it was brilliant. It's great. I can't remember any. I don't know what that's about. I think that's something to do. That's in the chat there. But no, Little Britain was of its time. Okay, so that was the first one. That big comedy, huge. You know, and those sayings are still around today to a certain extent as well from some of us. So anyway,
anytime the computer doesn't do what you want it to, someone is going to say, "Computer says no."
Computer says no.
And do you remember as well that character would go, "Computer says no."
Yeah.
Oh, you can't do that post-COVID, can you?
No.
He would be a massive. Oh, it's brilliant.
Wow.
Oh dear. But that was it. Look, we're laughing so much about this because it was genius. It's being repeated now on Matt's TV on British television every night at the moment as well. So go and have a look at it. You get Benidorm following it as well, which I've discovered.
And
I love Benidorm as well.
Well, I'm hoping Tom turns up in that, but I couldn't see any indication that he does because I thought that'd be brilliant. Right, here's another one for you. There's the famous one, everybody. This is the big famous one. What's this?
Blackadder, Captain Redbeard Rum.
Hurrah! Now, I know this is one of Paul's favourites, but again, this was a huge hit for Tom. And there's a story here as well, because none of us were expecting to see Tom Baker in Blackadder 2. This is Blackadder 2, The Revenge. No, I made that bit up. But Blackadder 2. And here he's playing Captain, what was it, Captain?
Redbeard Rum.
Redbeard Rum, yeah. And apparently, the story is, now Tom's very honest about this. Although this was a massive hit for Tom here in the UK, and it had us all going, "You have a woman's purse, my lord," and various variations on that theme, which we probably wouldn't get away with today because it is problematic. I can't believe we have to say this crap, but there it is. You have a woman's ... and he was into it. And we were all doing that for months. It was so big. He didn't enjoy the experience of working on the show, did he, Paul?
No, that's right. He tells an interesting story that they did the dress rehearsal, tech run before the recording in the evening, and they've been rehearsing for a week for the episode or whatever, and the producer were really enjoying his performance. But between recording or doing the tech run and the recording, Rowan Atkinson had a word with him and said, "Tom, you're doing this all wrong. Play it like you're really bored. You're a really boring character." And then Tom did that in the tech run, and the producer said, "Why are you doing this? You're not doing what you did in rehearsal." Why? Well, it said Rowan Atkinson said that's how I should play it, so I was doing what the leading man said. So he was told to do it that way. So obviously, allegedly, Rowan Atkinson was upstaged by Tom beautifully.
Well, if you've seen it, it's hard to argue with that because he's fantastic.
He's superb,
It's the power of the Baker again, isn't it? Well, all eyes are on him. And I reckon Mr. Atkinson knew that. And that's why he may have said to Tom, "Do it this way. I'd like you to do this." Because he was...
To be fair, it happens a few times. Tom does it. Rick Mail does it. There's a few actors who really steal the show from Rowan, which is hard to do because he's brilliant as well. But Tom really does. Yeah.
But Blackadder itself, especially in the second series, it wasn't really the sort of standout character, was it? Because he was quite reserved in a sense. He was quite snide, especially to Baldrick, But when you're getting a mad character like the captain here, Tom's instincts to play that were so on the ball. Just absolutely over the top. Just go for it. Because, as I say, it was such a hit in the UK that people were quoting it, for months. For months. And I think they repeated it the year after as well, didn't they, at some point? I don't know why I bother writing notes because I can never find anything when I look at it. But but it was so... it shows you his talent, doesn't it, really? He got this script and knew what to do.
I think this was probably the second role that I'd seen him in outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because funnily enough, my grandmother was a big fan of the first series of Blackadder because it's that older period of history that she really likes. And so when the second series came along, she introduced me to this, and you see Tom, and it's just his mannerism, and he just plays it perfectly for this character. And, it's the dead parrot flopping off his shoulder and stuff like that. It's just everything about it is hilarious. And he steals the scene. It's,
he does. Yeah,
he does. There's no denying that.
But it's
look at that. Another problematic thing, JT. He hasn't got any legs.
I was just about to mention this. But you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm digging myself into an early grave here. I think it's so funny. It's so funny because the character says to Blackadder, "Well, you haven't had your legs chopped off and you haven't washed them away. You haven't seen them washing away at sea, have you?" And Blackadder says, "No, and neither of you." "Well, that's where you're wrong."
Flips the table over.
Kirsty, have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Oh,
I've not seen his bit of Blackadder. I must admit, I wasn't the biggest fan of what I've seen of Blackadder already, but I need to catch his bit in it then.
I suppose you had to be there for Blackadder too, because they did 4 series, and each series was a thing. It was so cleverly done. Actually, how Blackadder must have been a very naughty boy to have so many successes through history, right up to World War One. But it is. I mean, that episode, it's a must watch, and I don't know. I won't speak for the rest of the part. I would recommend that particular episode.
Also,
Blackadder to the top. It's hilarious. It's totally on PC. It's a joy to watch, and Tom is just fabulous. He's brilliant. He really is. He's at this. I mean, even just looking at the pictures, and when you know the story now of Rowan Atkinson, you can actually see it to an extent in the scene where that scene there on the right where they're together, because you can just see this sort of thing where Mr. Atkinson is a little bit wary. Do you think so, Paul, or imagine that?
Well, but there's apparently a story. Tom says at the continuation of the story, there's a party afterwards, and he felt he couldn't go to it because he felt a bit awkward, so he didn't go to it. So yeah, there's a definite slight atmosphere from Rowan's point of view in terms of being a bit awkward with him. I think, yeah, which is a shame.
It is a shame because together they are funny, but Tom rules every scene he's into, especially when he gets into the palace or wherever it is, the chambers. He gets into that bit, then he rolls himself. I can't because it's just funny. It's just brilliant. Go and see it, Who Views. If you haven't watched it, go and see it. Thank you all for your comments as usual. It's all coming through. Pete's saying yes, it is a shame that the two of them didn't click. Christmas Adder is a must too. Now Nicola Bryant's in that one. Do you remember?
That's right. Yes, the Christmas Carol one that they did. Yeah.
Let's have a look. Yes, we've got all that. So thank you for that. Now this is interesting. From George, staying with comedy. Back in the 60s, he did a comedy scene with Sid James and Peggy Mount in George and the Dragon. It's this scene, isn't it? And
brilliant.
Yes.
Oh,
somebody shared it. On Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, and it's so funny.
It's absolutely brilliant. Tom makes his a stunning little appearance in this.
It's Captain Redbeard Rum Jr., isn't it? To be honest,
with all bodily appendages intact. It really is. I mean, yes. I mean, it's just amazing. Paul, tell the story of what he says here, because I can't get through this without actually.
Well,
because it's so funny.
Ask him how long the next train's going to be, and he says about 130 feet, and then goes off. Which is brilliant. Yeah.
I can't. You can watch it. He's in it for that long.
Yeah, that's it.
The way he plays it.
And he goes off laughing maniacally as well as he goes off. It's brilliant.
And Sid James goes.
That's
the thing about Sid James, isn't it? Because Sid James, fantastic comedian, but he wouldn't have had the Rowan Atkinson thing about fearing being upstage, because that just wasn't Sid James, was it? He
knew when something was funny.
Tony Hancock. But I've got to look that scene up.
You've got to look at it.
You have to. It's brilliant. If you're not seen it, have a look. It's hilarious.
Just look up George and the Dragon Tom Baker, or Tom Baker George and the Dragon. He's in it for seconds. And this was another big drama on ITV back in the day. This is huge. And these two, Sid James, Peggy Mount, who eventually turned up in The Greatest Show in the Galaxy. Do you remember?
He did, yeah.
There they are, and it's just wonderful the way that Tom does it, and he's got that stare at her when he looks at her. You can actually more or less feel, you know what I mean, that when he's doing that there, you know what he's doing to her. And that line, say it again, Paul.
He says 130 feet. Right.
Oh, it's just brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. That's another one. I mean, what a talent he is. He's just been brilliant, isn't it? Peter's saying here that was great, and that Sid peps up any scene. It is very funny. Oh, it's just really funny, that scene. It's just Sid's laugh when Tom walks off chuckling, and Sid goes, it's just perfect comic timing. It really is. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Oh, man. Right. Somebody else mentioned this in the chat as well. Oh, what's this? Woodhouse 122 saying Tom was good fun in a series called Fun at the Funeral Parlour. I don't know that one. Has anyone on the panel heard of that one?
I've heard of it. It was an Irish TV show, I think, but I've only seen clips of it. I've not seen. I think it's only one episode, but it's an Irish sitcom, I think. I don't know if it's written by the same people who did Father Ted. I'm not sure, but something like that. Yeah.
There was a lot of these. Oh, really? There was a lot of these comedies where he was only allowed to be in one episode.
Have you seen him as Swish Tony in the I can't remember the series. What was it called? the one that's a spin-off from the Fast Show. He's in that.
Oh, right, is he? No, I haven't.
Switch Tony's the episode, yeah. Switch Tony's the series, sorry. And he plays a film director, a bit like, what the director's name? Ken Russell. He plays that Ken Russell type character who'd made films, but he's on his uppers. That's worth a look as well. Yeah,
that's something else to look up then. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
That's great. We had somebody mentioning this one in the chat earlier, and I'm going to put it now. This is the Zany Adventures of Robin Hood, where he plays Sir Guy of Gisborne. Not that you can tell. So this is starring George Segal, Morgan Fairchild, Roddy McDowell, Janet Sussman, Stanley Myers, and Tom. It was a what do you call it, a TV movie in America. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've got it down here on the notes as being a TV movie over in the States. And he plays Sir Guy of Gisborne. Apparently, this is again, it's very, very funny. Who saw this in the chat? Let us know. What did you think of this particular one? Because I haven't seen this one yet. I'm going to look this one out because look at that. It doesn't look camp though, does it?
He's clearly playing that straight, isn't he?
He is playing it straight, yeah. I think he's had of something before he started.
The Guy of Gisborne, yeah. It's 1984. It's from 1984, made for television action comedy by Ray Austin, directed by Ray Austin. So there you go. And it's a parody of the old Robin Hood story. Really? Apparently it's very, very funny.
Made Marion and Her Merry Men before.
I don't know. George is saying Tom is by far the best thing in Zany Adventures. Oh really?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, so that'd be good fun. He's also saying a comedy connection. Tom always credits Jim Dale with giving his career a leg up. Matron. He was Jim's understudy at the National Theatre, and Jim gave him some high-profile breaks. Well, that's nice to know because Jim Dale was another one really that was all big and zany and doing well, wasn't he? He was always around. Garbage is saying to us he's never heard of this one. Yeah, the Zany Adventures of Robin Hood. It might be worth looking out. I'm certainly going to try and see if I can find it because he looks like he's having a jolly old time there, as we used to say. I mean, hello. I want to know what's in that. What is that? What is that thing he's holding up? George, what is that?
Medallion.
It reminds me of the thing they had in Carry On, Don't Lose Your Head, though, where his mother's teeth.
His mother's teeth, yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't in the Zany Adventures of Robin Hood, but please tell me, what was that? Fun at the Funeral Parlour, says Woodhouse 122, was a UK show with Rhys Thomas. There's a name. And Zany Adventures is also a lesser-known reason why he didn't do The Five Doctors. The production dates clashed. It was made in early '83 and released in '84. Ooh, that's a handy tidbit there. Thank you, George. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for that. That's nice to know. So we're looking at the comedy at the moment, and there has been a lot of comedy there. And he's just, I think we can say, guys, he's brilliant at comedy, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's spontaneous, isn't he? He can be spontaneously funny. He can be funny without being scripted. And I think that's the real skill. The fact that you can just go into a room and take any scenario and just immediately have people laughing is just skill off the scale.
Well, it is, isn't it? It's genius. And there's one particular one that Paul wanted to highlight here as well, which is a comedy that another one I'd never heard of. Yeah. And you wanted to talk about this one, Paul, didn't you? Because this is something I definitely want to look up. And tell us all about this one.
Now, I recommend, I don't know if anyone here, the young people won't remember this, but there's a channel called Bravo, once upon a time, that had old programs on it. And they showed this short film with Tom Baker and Eric Morecambe, two of my most favourite people ever, in the same short films, but 40 minutes long. It's called The Passionate Pilgrim. And it's a bit like the Eric Sykes Rhubarby type thing. There's occasional line, but mainly it's a narration done by John the Measurer from Dad's Army, who plays Sergeant Wilson, and Madeline Smith plays the love interest, shall we say, in it. And it's a fantastic short film. If you ever get hold of it, it's fantastic. I can't. It's almost on a par with Blackadder for me in terms of Tom's performance. It's fantastic, and the meeting of these two iconic people,
absolutely
as well.
I mean, when you tell, I just couldn't believe this because I'd never heard of this. This is another one I've not heard of. But Tom looks like he's having a feel. I mean, he's got a nice hat there as well, hasn't he? This is lovely.
Yeah.
And here he is with Eric Morecambe,
the
comedy legend, and the two of them together must have been amazing.
It's brilliant. They again, a bit like we're talking about Sid James and Tom. Him and Eric hit it off, and you can see they're having a ball together. There's no animosity. It looked like they had a great laugh making it. A lot of fun.
And we're not talking the 60s or 70s here, Paul, are we? We're talking the 80s. And apparently, I did some research about this when you were telling me. Apparently, this was supposed to be a fully fledged film.
I think
but it wasn't completed. So they did a sharder on this one. Basically, it wasn't all completed. It's based on the Shakespeare story.
Yeah.
And again, I think Tom would have gripped this because he would have known about the Shakespeare version. Eric Morecambe must have put a twist on this, surely. And it's a great little cast. You mentioned the cast there as well. I found this particular picture as well. Look at this. I mean, this was a young lady.
I don't know if you've got the picture that you can just see the scarf there, can't you? But there's a great bit when you see Madeline Smith is knitting a scarf, and the camera pans down and you see the other end of the scarf and Tom's got it. I think it's brilliant. Bit like Leisure Hive, kind of moment like that, yeah.
Oh, Madeline Smith was one of those women that we sort of grew up with as well. She was on lots of different things, wasn't she? Lots of comedies, lots of dramas. I certainly remember her with great affection. I remember something she would do. She was always like this. Well, hello, and then she turned out to be some sort of mass murderer or something like that. It was fabulous.
Or a vampire or something like that.
Or something like this. But she was the name of the time. But the three of them together must have been. Oh, what a shame it wasn't completed the full way that Morecambe wanted it to. Because of course, he passed away.
I think it was made in '84, GT, and sadly, I think it was one of the last couple of things that Eric made before he passed away, sadly, which is such a shame.
That's why it wasn't finished, because of course he left us, which is a great shame. But it does look great. What's your favourite moment out of it, though? What drew that?
To be honest, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I've got it on VHS. I thought I'd done DVD, but so I'll need to dust off my VHS player and see if I can watch it again. But I just remember just laughing so much. My friend recorded it for me. I was sharing a house with a friend at that point, and he recorded it. I was at work and came back in, and he said, "Watch this, is brilliant." He was a big Doctor Who fan and Morecambe Wise fan as well, and sat down and watched it, and I laughed so much. The whole thing was fantastic, and it was one of those things you watch when you're in agony afterwards. You've laughed so much.
Oh,
beaming that Tom and Eric were working together was just super. I'm kind of gushing about this more than Blackadder, but it was fantastic. If you get to see it, you'll love it. Honestly, it's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something that I certainly am going to be looking at. The Passionate Pilgrim, because it does look a joy, absolutely wonderful. What's this? Baker's End is achingly funny. Listen to it. Thanks for that, George. Baker's End. That's funny in the title in itself, isn't it? Really, probably get censored today, though. I'll tell you. And Pete's saying here, I could see Tom in a Baron Munchausen adventure back in the day. That's something the casting that they've missed there, isn't it? Really, there's so much he could have done. I can't believe that he still wasn't in the Harry Potter films.
Yeah.
Was he not one of the?
Imagine him as Peeves.
Well, I would have rather have had him in something that wasn't cut from the film. But he could have been one of the great wizards, if not Dumbledore.
Yeah.
He could have played Dumbledore. I just can't believe, Kirst, that they never had the mighty Tom Baker in the Harry Potter film.
Just imagine him. Did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire, son? Imagine that delivered by Tom.
I think he would have nailed any sort of wizard in those things, because Tom is a wizard. Let's face it, he is a wizard. Yeah, exactly. Somebody, we've looked at Tom's comic, some of his ability as a comic, absolutely superb. From a voiceover to actually being on screen playing with this, I mean, it's his natural instinct as well, isn't it? So there's something in Tom that makes people, he gravitates toward comedy. He's able to make people laugh. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of that conversation. All right. Somebody mentioned this in the chat as well. This was something else I didn't see. This is called Medics, and again, a massive drama of its day for ITV back in the 90s, which Tom joined this halfway through it as well.
Can I point something out, JT? He's wearing his Shada suit.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I wonder if this was one of his costumes. Because he was playing Sir Geoffrey something in this, I believe, who was a surgeon.
Geoffrey Hoyt.
Geoffrey Hoyt, that's it. Yeah. So from surgeon to from doctor to surgeon, basically, is what a lot of the press went on about. You know, when he was doctor surgeon, they were talking about this. But the drama got a little bit more publicity when Tom came into this. And obviously his casting run for a couple more years there, I think, helped this. But again, does anybody remember Medics?
I don't want to keep talking, but I do remember it. But he was over the top in this as well. This was a drama. So,
oh, was he?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. It was made at the Old Granada Studios in Manchester. That rings a vague bell, actually, there. Yeah. And George is also saying Baker's End is a set of audio comedies with Katie Manning, oh God love her, based on his own life. There you go. That's good to know, isn't it?
In Medics, he was a surgeon, as you said, and in theatre, when they're in operations, he'd play opera on the CD player, and he'd sing along to I don't know, the operas he was listening to whilst he was operating on the patients. And he was a bit like James Robertson Justice in the
no.
What's the bleeding time sort of person, that kind of thing.
Really?
A bit like that, yeah. So.
Oh God, I wonder what the public would have thought of that then. I don't know that over the top surgeon. I'm never going to.
He was really good at it. It was very, very funny. And he had at his house, he had like a bit like The Good Life. He had goats and things and chickens at his house, and he'd sing to his goat and stuff like that. It was just a bit bizarre at times, yeah. But they're very much Tom though.
How does he choose his roles? Tom, you got to come on the show. This is, I love that. He's going to come up to you with this character. Or did you actually have an influence in this character, Mr. Baker? Because this sounds very Tom from Medics. So this went 1990 to 1995, and Tom came into it in 1992 and stayed with it till it was finished in 1995. That's a big run. I can't say any much more of that because I only heard about it the other day. I don't know.
He gets married in it as well. There's a lovely romance with him and this new lady he meets in the series, and they get married in the last episode, I think.
Ah,
which is nice.
Well, that's all well. That ends well, isn't it? That's really nice there. It's always nice to have a happy finish, isn't it? So that's really good there. I like that. So let's, I mean, is there anything else? Is there anything we've missed about Tom for this introduction to our Tom Baker series?
Did you remember Cluedo when he played the Reverend Green?
Go on, tell us about
that. I remember that.
He did it, and Richard Madeley presented a version of like Who Done It, like they did with John Pertwee, but it was Cluedo. And each year they had different people playing the characters. And Tom one year played. I think it was Professor Plum. Professor Plum he played. I think. Yeah.
I missed
that show until just now.
Well, really?
That was like, no, properly, like the whole family used to sit down. The entire Cook household will have sat and watched Cluedo. I was mad, but I've completely forgot it. You'd get like a little clip, and then they'd ask some people questions, and then you'd see some more, wouldn't you?
And what was good about it, you used to watch the actors in character, and they'd ask them a question about the plot, and then the actors would improvise around that little brief. And Tom he'd go off on one and do what he normally does and just kind of skirt round the question kind of thing. It's brilliant stuff.
Oh, do you know what? I missed some real crap in the 90s, didn't I?
You did, yeah.
And I hope they've started repeating it all on these newfangled channels that are turning up, so I can start discovering them all now, because it's all new to me and there's nothing else I'll watch. So please repeat Cluedo. That's TV entertainment. I want to see it. Did they actually solve the mystery on the episode, or was it a series?
I think, well, they did. I think it was a series. So each week was a different story, though. So it wasn't like they carried it through 6 weeks. I think each episode had its own denouement, effectively, in that episode. So, yeah.
Oh. It appears that some of it is online.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I think Joan Sims is in one playing Mrs. White. And I think Colonel Mustard was the guy from Professionals, not Martin Shaw, the other one. What's his name? Lewis Collins. Yeah, he was in it as well. So.
There's a name. God love. He's no longer with us, is he, Mr. Collins?
That's
oh,
right,
but
yeah.
he was a heartthrob back in the 70s. Do you remember? Looking would have him in pictures, and all the girls were screaming after him and putting him on the walls and all this sort of stuff. Oh, bless him. Pete's asking, what's Patrick Moore in that? Oh, what?
It's a Doctor Who mine. I mean, if you're just flicking through on IMDb, you've got Leslie Grantham, Nicholas Parsons, Michael Jaston.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everyone's in it.
I've never heard of it, but yes, brilliant. Something else I've got to discover. The old Granada Plus channel used to repeat Medics every afternoon non-stop. Now, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was one of these daytime things until I looked at the dates and realized it couldn't have been. So it was an evening thing I found out as well. It was put on about 8 o'clock at night or something like this. So that's, I suppose, but it would fit today's daytime telly, I suppose, especially when you haven't got any money to churn out any decent stuff these days. George is talking about, don't forget Tom's amazing audio recordings. Listen to his, George, you're absolutely right. Christmas Carol, I've got that. And I have to say, I do listen to it every year. He's just stunning, isn't he? The reading of his Christmas Carol, if you haven't got it, get it and treat yourself. He nails the reading of that. It's spooky and he's eloquent in it. He projects an atmosphere through just his voice. It's amazing. I'm definitely with you on that one. Just go and get a Christmas Carol. Tom Baker reads a Christmas Carol. Absolutely fantastic. You will thank us. It's brilliant. We've got that. Yes, and pizza greetings. Got that. It's beautiful. It really is. It's a really great thing. And Tom's voice for Christmas Carol. It's meant to be, isn't it? It's meant to be on that one. Oh man, listen. I want to say thank you to everybody that's been in the chat with us tonight. I hope we have whet your appetite for the rest of our Tom Baker tributes that is coming up. And I hear you saying, what have we got coming up?
What have we got coming up?
That's what we've got coming up. So if you haven't liked the video and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because we are really making an awful lot of our beloved mighty Tom Baker and his 90th birthday here. So yes, we've got all those shows coming back, and next week we will have the big birthday party as well, where all of us on the WHOTASTIC panel and hopefully all of you in the chat will be looking at Tom's time as the Doctor in Doctor Who. We want your favorite memories, your favorite costumes, your favorite outfits. Dress up if you want to, I don't care. But you know, you can do. You can everything about that. We're going to be sharing all our favorite memories of what Tom's coming out. We're also going to be having a Merchandise Paradise Tom Baker special. I've been very busy photographing a lot of the collection for you to go back and look at that. So that's all coming up. So stay tuned for that. And yes, Who's Views Reviews. We are looking at the most completed episodes of Doctor Who ever. Yes, the unfinished Sharda. Only the Tom Baker versions, not the Paul McGann thing. No, Tom Baker only. Yes, join us as we look at Sharda, and join us with your favorite version of Sharda, what you liked about it, and we'll review the story as a whole as well as Tom's performance in that. So that's us. We're up and off. We are launching our Tom Baker season here on Who's Views. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the WHOTASTIC panel for coming in with all those lovely memories and bits and pieces there. I hope you've enjoyed the show.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to say for their fit, there's a delay on this, but there isn't. They're just slow. I'm going to have to train them, aren't I, and what a queue is. Yes. But listen, thank you for joining us. Let's just have one more look at that. Yeah, we'll get there. Give another come on. Yeah, look, Simon's saying, yeah, come on, you lurkers. And also Douglas Adams. Yes, we are going to be appreciating him as well. So much. Tom says, Pete, there'll never be enough. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I thought of a joke there, but we better not. Don't forget, yes.
Shout out for that. I think it might have been real time video where he ended up interviewing himself.
Yeah.
That was just batshit, but it was brilliant. Absolute brilliant.
It is, and I'm sure it's still available from Real Time as well. If you're not interested in that one, because it is. He did some wonderful work with Keith over and the team at Real Time as well, didn't he? I'm sure Bedouin, you've got that already in your collection. I've got it somewhere as well.
Yeah, I'm
but
trying to look, it's down on the
I've got
bookshelf.
VHS.
Yeah, me too. VHS. Yeah.
You've got to upgrade it, guys. You know.
I know. I think Keith's getting round to re-releasing them all. I'll get it eventually. It's fine.
Well, listen, that's it for the first of our Tom Baker shows. You've seen what's coming up. It's all on the channel for you there. We will be back with more from Who's Views. Thank you so much for joining us as we get to saying happy birthday to Tom properly next week as well. I'm so excited about that. Join us next time with all your fourth Doctor memories, everything about Tom's gigantic and unbeaten record as the Doctor. 7 mighty years we've got to look at. I'm so excited about it. Until we see you next time on Who's Views, say goodbye, Whotastic Panel.
Bye-bye.
Whotastic Panel.
Yeah, you see, they're getting there. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.